Hi. The film I'll be talking about today is Doc Hollywood. This film was directed by Michael Caton-Jones and stars Michael J. Fox, Julie Warner, Woody Harrelson, and Bridget Fonda. The reason I wanted to talk about this film in particular is because if someone described the premise of this film to me, I wouldn't want to see it. Because I would think, oh, this is one of those stupid rom-coms like Sweet Home Alabama or any of those god-awful Kate Hudson, Matthew McConaughey rom-coms they made in the past. And it's anything but that. Yes, guy on his way to the city gets derailed in the country, doesn't want to be there, meets the girl, falls in love, falls for the town. Except in this movie, it's quite charming, which is kind of what makes this film remarkable. And it almost made me realize that maybe it's not that the formula is bad, it's the execution of it. Because when it's done right, you can enjoy Boy Meets Girl, Boy Falls for Girl. Too many films, there's no character development. It's just, let's find two attractive people, put them in some odd situations, and it almost seems as though to the filmmakers and the writers themselves, what happens in between is superfluous. We don't care. We've got the two attractive people, we'll throw them in a cute location. One will represent the city, one represents small town USA. We'll throw some minor mishaps in there, and then we'll get them together at the end. Hallmark, that's pretty much every Hallmark movie's formula right there. And to see a film take that formula and make it work, because the director, the writers, the actors made the characters real people. And this was Michael J. Fox. This came at a time in his career where was done with the Back to the Future trilogy. And he plays a doctor in this film. And you don't for 1 second doubt him as a doctor. And this movie really showed how, in a lot of ways, Michael J. Fox, I don't want to speak about him in the past tense and say was, but we all know he's been afflicted with Parkinson's and doesn't do as many projects, obviously, anymore. But he's a really underrated actor. Certainly successful, but I think sometimes, especially when you start in TV, it's like, yeah, he's good doing that thing. This character couldn't be further from an Alex P. Keaton or a Marty McFly, and he does it so well. And he brings a depth to this character. And two, somebody that America came to know as a young man playing a teenager, Alex P. Keaton, you buy him as a leading man, and he plays the romantic lead very well, which is not easy to do when America first came to know you as Alex P. Keaton, this, kind of pompous, arrogant teenager who's full of himself but secretly is insecure. There's no trace of Alex P. Keaton in this film. He works as a leading man and shows that he has the depth to carry it off and pull it off, and to, be the headliner of a film, and to do that, and that's not easy to do. As I said earlier, what it is about this film is not that it's an original idea, because it's anything but original. It's the execution of it that makes it original. And it maybe original is not the right word, in the sense that it did make me think somewhat back on the great 30s and 40s kind of screwball comedies that Preston Sturges did. And when you watch this film, it's as though Michael Caton-Jones studied those films. And 30s and 40s, they kind of all disappeared. And we went more into the dime of the Rock Hudson, Doris Day, Tony Randall, meet cute type films. And then in the 80s, Gary Marshall came along and Julia Roberts and all. And this felt like a new take, and seeing it up to date with an actor who was so well equipped to pull it off, like Michael J. Fox. And Julie Warner, who was a complete unknown at this time, really brought some depth to a part that could have been a throwaway part of the girl in the country, and she's just waiting for the big city doctor to come in and charm her and take her away. When you meet this character has a depth and a texture to her. And Julie Warner's character in the film is called Lou, and she works as an ambulance driver, and she's studying to become a lawyer. And in the film, we see that while she's in the town, she's not necessarily of the town. She is well read. She is very intelligent. But she doesn't look down on those around her. She's not screaming to get out. She looks at them with a certain fondness and almost has a protective nature when talking about them, with Michael J. Fox, whose character, Ben Stone, in the movie kind of is there and is just like, how could anyone of your caliber be waylaid in, this hee-haw hell? And she kind of helps him see that there's more to people if you'll just take the time to look for it. And that's what this film does. Because as I just said about, being waylaid in a hee-haw hell, usually films that have a premise like this one, on your way to Beverly Hills, on your way to the city, and you get waylaid and you end up out in the country, those films usually have the depth of a hee-haw sketch. Whereas in this film, rather than be cornball, it's more offbeat. It's more kitsch. It's more camp. These characters have their quirks, but they're interesting. They're not stupid. They're the kind of characters that really do make up a small town. And this was filmed in Micanopy, Florida. It was supposed to take place in Grady, South Carolina, but they shot it in Micanopy. And I've actually been through Micanopy, Florida before. The fact that they found a location like that, not a tourist trap, not a place that a lot of people like to go in and then they go in the shops and, it's like, look at our small town charm, even though we've got parking lots everywhere and ride the shuttle bus and we'll show you this, and this. Micanopy, a lot of people have never even heard of it. I'm surprised. I don't even know how they found it for the filming location. And it's another character in this film. You develop an affection for this town along with Ben Stone in the movie, who in the beginning is just, this is going to be a pit stop. I got in an accident and I'm stuck here for a while. And you see him slowly become a part of the town. And you also see the town slowly become a part of him. To where by the time he's ready to go, his car's been fixed, the situation's been taken care of, it's been rectified, he doesn't know anymore. And he's starting to realize that he's been in such a hurry for so long that he's bypassing something that could be bigger and better than the bigger and better thing that he thinks he's moving towards. And as a viewer, you're right there with him, because what this film's smart about is you don't just fall for Lou, played by Julie Warner. You fall for the town and the characters that make this town tick. Woody Harrelson gives such a great comedic performance in this film, and I've always felt he is one of the most underrated actors out there. This is somebody who can do a film like Natural Born Killers and play Woody Boyd on Cheers, and then play a character like Hank, who's kind of in that, ne'er-do-well Woody Boyd way, except Hank has a certain cockiness and self-assuredness, even though as a viewer we don't know why, but he does have it. And Bridget Fonda gives a great comedic performance as the girl who's got stars in her eyes for Ben Stone when he comes in and sees him as her ticket out of this, one horse town, and he's going to take her to the bright lights of Los Angeles. And watching that, seeing his interaction with them, and seeing that it doesn't happen overnight, but the more that he gets to know them, and he has to, for his time of probation in this town, he has to fill in as a doctor and kind of see the patients. And he starts to realize, doing real work, meeting these eccentric types. There's a scene where one guy brings him his pig to show his appreciation. There's another scene where the family comes in and he doesn't understand what they're there for, and they're like, oh, we just wanted you to read our mail. And he starts to understand, I won't get this somewhere else. You're not going to get this in Beverly Hills. You'll get something. You'll get financially rewarded. But this, you don't get. And other films don't seem to be able to do that without beating you over the head with it. And even though in other films they might try to portray the small town, in a nice way. I don't think they're often done by people who really have an affection for small town America, as Jones, the director, seems to have. He's Scottish, he's not from America, but he seems to have a love for small town USA because he doesn't patronize it, he celebrates it. And right before Stone's kind of getting ready to leave, he's walking around the town that night. And you see the kids with the sparklers, and it shows the folks watching an old silent film. And there's a scene with he and Julie Warner. They're dancing at what seems to be like the county fair. And the Patsy Cline song Crazy comes on. And they do this long, slow dance. And everybody around them just seems to disappear. And Siskel and Ebert both said that was one of the most romantic scenes they'd seen in movies since they could remember. And the fact that Jones was smart enough to not be worried about speeding it along. Let it go. He wasn't worried about losing our attention. He was more concerned with making sure we were invested. And so many films then and now, forget it. I mean, back then we would say MTV editing. Now it would be TikTok or Reels or anything. The attention spans don't exist. And it was so refreshing, and still is refreshing, to see a romantic comedy that lets you see two people fall in love. And before that dance scene, there's a scene where Michael J. Fox is riding in the car. They're driving around doing the house visits in Micanopy, taking the back roads, and she's telling him about how this is her favorite part of the job. And she said, just getting out back here. And he sort of looks at her as she's talking. And we see that the affection between the two of them is blossoming. And just that scene alone, and that it's not cute dialogue, it's not pithy dialogue, it's just two people talking. She's letting him in a little bit into what makes her tick. And he's receiving it. He's taking it in. What's sad is how you hardly ever see that in a film, especially a rom-com. Which is why in most of them, who cares if they get together? I don't like either character because I don't know them. They're tropes, they're cliches, they're not people, they're personalities. Whereas in this film, you kind of see them grow, get to know each other, and fall in love. We get to see it mature. We get to see it, gradually turn into something. It doesn't just throw them together like that. They're cute, they're going to end up. There will be some minor mishap along the way. Eventually, and this was a smart move by Jones, he doesn't just have Michael J. Fox's character say, you know what, I'm not going to leave, I'm going to stay here. He does go. And another credit to the writers, they don't have the female character go after him. She lets him go. And eventually the two, Bridget Fonda and Woody Harrelson, that they bring his car down that he had to leave in Micanopy, and that's what got him there in the first place. He got derailed along his trip. And he's talking with them, and when they had said with the plastic surgeon's office, which, interesting little sidebar, George Hamilton has a cameo. He's not in the film long, but he's great in the scene that he's in. It is the Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. That's perfect for George Hamilton. When they tell him, these people called Southern accent, we know who he thinks it's going to be. And he had assumed, because she had told him she was going to stay in Grady, the character, and marry Hank, played by Harrelson. Well, who's there but the Bridget Fonda character in Harrelson? And he lets him know, I broke it off clean. She was never going to marry me. It's time for a man to move on sometimes. And that night, and I love this scene, Instead of calling her or anything like that, he gets the phone out and he calls Grady for the weather report. And listening to her talk about it'll be hot all day, but around noon there will be a summer breeze that makes it all worth your while. And he puts the hat from Grady with the squash on it on, realizing that he's achieved success, but he won't find any significance or substance where he is. That's somewhere else. And you'll be able, when you watch this film, to predict where it's going. I don't think you'll be able to predict how much you enjoy it getting there. I didn't do as in depth of a, deep dive into the plot on this review. I don't really think it's necessary. This is a breezy, light comedy that when you watch it reminds you how good and how enjoyable it can be to watch a breezy, light comedy like this, and how refreshing it is to see one well done. So I hope you give it a shot. It's a great way to spend a Friday or Saturday night. It's original, and when it's over, you'll feel good. Until next time, thanks.